just giving it a wash and clay barred a lot of it. I've just gone over it with some of this waxy stuff that was in the garage. Not sure where that came from, but it seems alright for just sealing it off. It's going in the garage anyway, so should be fine, but it'd be nice to get some snaps. Well, no, I'll tell you what, I'll show you if I kneel down here. Go back a bit. One thing I love about this car is the side profile. I think that's the best angle. I love the kind of shorter front end, you know, little front overhang and big rear one. Windows aren't too big, aren't too small. Wheelbase is good. Although, one thing I'd put on is a rear spoiler. I think it's lacking in that. Some people like it without, but I like it with. Typical. It's finished in Orinoco metallic. It's one of the last M5 limited editions, or sorry, UK limited editions. People on the continent in America, some of them have no idea what that is, but it was basically a limited run of 50 cars, finished in individual colours and interiors. Apart from that, you know, there's nothing particularly different about them. I mean, they all came with electric seats, electric sunroof, air conditioning, a few other bits and bobs. So they're not, you know, there are better spec cars out there, but it's pretty cool to be one of the last 50. So they made 35 in this colour, an interior, and then they made 15 in Rosso Red with champagne, which is the better one in my opinion. But this was the one for sale at the time, so I bought this. It's been repainted. The previous owner who had it in 2012 spent a lot of money on it. It was then at a dealership for a couple of years before I bought it. I think their knowledge of what, you know, prep should be carried out in these vehicles wasn't particularly amazing, and it had a couple of issues as well, and I'm not sure they knew how to sort it out, but luckily I did. So yeah, the previous owner had the whole thing repainted, which, you know, the paint is kind of 95% still perfect. There's a couple of little bubbles and bits which I'll unwillingly show you in a sec. Hang on. The worst one really is the typical bottom of the passenger door there. You know, apart from that, it's got a few. It's got no other actual bubbles on it. It's got some tiny sort of pin, you know, pins that are coming out, bits of rust. But apart from that, it's really quite nice. I think this guy that owned it before as well had the wheels diamond cut. They're supposed to come in parallels, I think, and these are the silver painted finish, but he had them diamond cut, which I think I actually prefer. I think it makes the wheel look a bit sharper. Just looks a bit smarter, a bit more crisp. But the downside is obviously after a while they start to corrode. The aluminium comes through, goes white. All the oxidisation comes through under the lacquer. It's not the end of the world. It's nice to have a car that's not perfect, so you're not worried about it all the time. A couple of bits of rubber and trims and stuff that I need to replace. Actually, so I'll make sure the alarm's off. There you go. So yeah, like I say, Orinoco metallic, which I actually had a look at this under a special lens, camera lens, and there's so many colours in it. But it's really nice colour. And then they did this petrol, they called it petrol and mint. So these were two-tone. This is the petrol bit, this is the mint bit, and it came with bird's eye maple trim, which is lovely. But yeah, there's a couple of tiny bits on the interior, nothing major. There's that, you know, the seats are in good nick. The seats have been re-dyed, because you can tell there's a bit somewhere where you can sort of see where that bit's been done and that bit hasn't. Probably doesn't come up on camera, but it's not too bad. So yeah, you get the seats are amazing. They're so comfortable. So much adjustment as well. They're all electric. Not memory on this car, but they're all electric. Thigh support's electric. Headrests are electric. Although of course they don't bloody work. Something else I've got to sort out. Bird's eye maple gear knob, handbrake. Everything's trimmed in leather. I'll start down here. As you can see, door pockets, leather. Armrests and grab handles, leather. Coin thing here, that's leather. Even the side of the dash, that's leather. Top of the dash isn't. Obviously steering wheel's leather. Everything down here is leather. Look, on the side of the dashboard, all the ashtray, everything, that's leather. This is all leather. Look at that. Leather. This is leather, that's leather. All the back. Bottom of the glove box. Side of the dash. Yeah. Simple, clean, crisp lines. I really like it. I'll tell you what, auto dimming mirror as well. That's handy. Electric sunroof. Headlining's all in good nick. You know, those tend to sag a bit. Found out something interesting recently. These adjustable shoulder heights for the seat belts, you think, oh, how do I move that? Because it doesn't look particularly obvious. Apparently, and again, this is broken on this one, so I need to fix it. If you move the seat forward, it assumes you're short and brings that down. If you're tall, move the seat back, it brings it up, which I've never seen in any other car. I think it's done by like a rotating wire, you know, like a speedo cable sort of thing. It rotates and does all that. Glove box torch, obviously, doesn't work. These never ever work in any BMW. Apart from my E46, it did work. There is a guy on the internet who's done an LED conversion for one of these, but I don't see the point really. One day, you know, when I've sorted everything else out, that'll save me money for my engine rebuild. Yeah, so you've got matching carpets, you know. I'll show you in the back. Again, everything's leather, electric rear windows. It's all in lovely nick. The couple of these centre sections are a little bit dry, so I'm going to recondition those and hopefully get some moisture back into them. Almost a little bit for all your snacks. Amazing driving position in these as well. It's not quite as good as the E36 I found. I think the E36 seems to be a bit better proportioned. Maybe it's because you either sit lower or the pedals are a bit higher up. In the a friend of mine described it as an E36 you sit in, and E34 you kind of sit on, which sounds a bit odd. And the seats there's loads of adjustment in the seats, but it's, you know, difficult to explain. But I think the driving position in the E36 is better. Nothing much in here really, apart from my oxygen sensor for my exhaust, which is in there. Hence I'm not going to start it because I'll piss off all the neighbours. The spare wheel lives under here. There you go. Got your jack and your toolkit and everything back there. Oh sorry, no, toolkit's up there. Jack and wheel brace and everything back there. Got a nice back end on these as well. No exhaust. I'll show you what we've done, or what I've done on the driveway over the last couple of years. Everything under here, up to basically the gearbox, well beyond the gearbox actually, is new or refurbed. So refurbed tank, stainless steel custom straps made up that a friend of mine actually now sells, because he made them. This is all, everything's new. Obviously no drive shaft, no diff. I'm waiting for those to come back, but coronavirus has shut down elite racing gearboxes, so we've got that at the moment. Just got to wait for them to open up, but this was the project, everything under here. Oh, I'm pleased to say everything's back together. There seems to be no leaks. I had a couple of issues with the levelling valve, which does the rear suspension, but apart from that, it's not bad. Ah, this is something that needs sorting. About 3 years ago, my friend's girlfriend went to get in the back of this car. She pulled this, it wasn't her fault, she pulled this, and that trim decided to come with it. So you can't really get in the back unless you... Oh, let me just hold this. You've got to hold that back and pull that, so I've got to fix that at some point. Look at that. Bloody thing. But yeah, not bad. Look at that for a cockpit. Nice clean dials. Obviously all M cars, I think, of this era, you ditch the MPG cage for a fuel temperature gauge down there. One thing I noticed about this actually, it only takes kind of 10 minutes for the water temperature to get up. actually quicker than that sometimes, but the oil temperature takes a good 20 minutes or so. So it's, you know, ensure before you give it the beans, your oil's up to temperature. One thing I've got to sort, again, parcel shelf. They are horrendous. My E36 I had years ago had the same thing. They're supposed to be black, but they just go over time. It's supposed to match the pillars here. You see right in the edges where it's still black, where it tucks under? Sort of. I'll probably reupholster that myself. Still here, we'll look at the business end. Bonnet's awesome on these. It kind of, you didn't quite see that, but it sort of shoots forward, goes whoop, like that. Look at that. It's the S38 B38 engine. It's the biggest capacity straight 6 BMW have put in a car to date, I believe. Naturally aspirated, 24 valve. It's got individual throttle bodies there, so cable operated throttle. You get bits moving about. This is a little valve, I can't remember if they call it a Renaissance valve, but it basically changes the airflow in the inlet manifold at higher revs. I think it comes in at about 4.5 and you get a bit of punch. But yeah, got a good service history. I mentioned an engine rebuild, but that's something I'd like to do eventually, although it doesn't, you know, immediately need it. This, I think the viscous clutch went on the fan because it was like that when I got it, but obviously these teeth have all been damaged, so I assume that's hit something, but there we go. Insulation's in really good nick. These all shrink, I think, again, that's been replaced. But yeah, it's got an aftermarket alarm. You've got to listen to this, it's the most... Oh, it's got a trickle charger there as well, which I use. It's the most 90s sounding alarm, even though it's put in 2011, I think. Right, ready? Brilliant. It's a pretty good alarm, actually. It's got a really loud siren. But yeah, that's just a quick walk around. Oh, I didn't show you the little limited edition plaque. You might have spotted it though. There you go. Number 39. Now, I don't know how true this is. I was told by someone on one of the forums that my car's quite unique in that it is actually the 39th one to be produced. Now, according to the VIN number. Now, which is Golf Echo 0366 for anyone who wants to know. Now, apparently, the order of the builds wasn't directly corresponding to the number of the car, but mine does, apparently. So I like to tell people that. Not that it matters. BMW geeks. But yeah, that's it. I'm gonna go have some dinner now.